not very bright. Give me the light. All right, guys, hello. Welcome to another episode of Ali Haba's Become Programmer. Today we are going to talk about security, okay? But what is security and what can we secure is few of our questions, okay? So we can secure everything, okay? How do we secure our laptops? How do we use our laptops and the desktops and our phones securely? Sometimes it's tied to privacy. How do we build secure applications? How do we secure our customers' data? How do we secure our servers? So there's many security options, okay? But what are we securing against? That's the first question, okay? Well, there are two things that we have to keep in mind. It's internal and external, okay? What does it mean external? It's external people trying to steal, for example, our data. Okay, so that's number one external, so hackers. Who are these hackers? What do they want? Why do they want our data? Why is our data valuable to them? Some of these questions. Yes, Thomas, just R777, that's a good way to secure everything. Not. The internal one is a little bit more difficult because the bigger the company is, the more people it has, and then more people have ideas of how they can steal the data for their own benefits. Okay, so I was approached in London when I was by a guy who was selling me the data from his hotel. So he was working in a hotel reception and he had all the data about his guests, and it's one big famous London hotel, so he has some famous people as guests. So, and he knows that this data has value, but he doesn't know where to sell it to and how to sell it and what is the value of this data. So it was more about asking me, hey, if I do this, what can I get for it? Who needs data about, celebrities visiting my hotel, probably those celebrities I never heard of, but, then again, I'm not up to speed with all the bloody Instagram models and so on. So those are internal kind of security things that we need to make sure that, again, as much as we can protect these businesses. One more thing is that nothing is 100% secure because everything has the element of humans, and this is the problem. We don't do things properly, we don't think of everything, and humans make mistakes. And when they make mistakes, oopsie daisy, okay? So you have these MI6 agents, MI5, this is British spy agencies who, forgot their laptops on the bloody train, and somebody finds the laptop and is like, opens it up, and is like, oh, it's MI6, brilliant, who wants to, so it's, you can secure it as much as you want, but if the bloody idiot leaves it on the train, full of data of latest spies, who is where, etc. That's So it's a game of also predicting all the things that can go wrong. Okay, and these things not all the time work very well because human stupidity always surprises us. Okay. So that's one of the things that we may cover a little bit more today. I also want to say that once something is secure today, it doesn't mean it's secure tomorrow. Okay, so we always try to find the new ways to pick the lock. Okay, so this is what we are kind of going to talk about today. I have some questions that a few of the guys, thank you very much for sending those. And if you have questions to get answered, please send them over. But these are interesting questions because these are questions about VPN, for example. You know, well, should I use it? What is it for? How does it protect me? And so on. So as long as it has something to do with security, you know, please ask the question, put it in the chat, and I will try to answer those as well. Okay? So let's start with external security, all right? So who are the people who want to hack us? Well, unless you are Fort Knox or big bank, the answer is nobody wants to hack you specifically, okay? So if you are a huge brand with millions of customers like Sony, okay, who has lots of game players on their consoles and users, they will be targeted deliberately, okay? So one of the problems, of course, is when people want to steal something, they go to the place where there's lots of it, okay? So if you want to steal money, you are going to go to the bank to steal the money. You're not going to go to, I don't know, public kitchen for unemployed people, you know, to steal money there, you know. People do, but those are not very smart criminals. You know, stealing from the church and so on. So we have that, okay? So we have two types of hackers. The hackers who deliberately want to get specific brand, bank, big brand, and so on. But then we have these generic scripts writers who just say, let me write a script which will go around the internet, okay, and check, can I hack this using an exploit, okay? So it's not just a random script, you know, it's not guys sitting at home trying to guess your password one by one, okay? No, it's a guy who says, there is an exploit that I'm aware of, and I'm just going to try that exploit on server alihaba.com, appsource.org, you know, but he doesn't even care what those are. He's just going to say, do IP address and sequence till one of them opens, okay? Once it opens, he doesn't know what he's going to find. In most cases, it's not going to be much. But if you do this for days, you might get some very interesting pieces of information. Like credit card information and so on. It's interesting to know that the banks and these big organizations get hacked every month, okay? Every month they leak a little bit of information, or more, or a lot, okay? Every month they get hacked. But they are not going to say anything about it. So imagine if my bank tells publicly, hey, we got hacked, everybody stole our credit card information, they stole 500 million from our accounts and they transferred here, and, you know, what am I going to do as a customer? It's like, what the fuck, you know, these people, you know, are supposed to protect my money, they get hacked every month, you know, so I'm going to lose my money, so I better go to a different bank, okay? So, of course, they are not going to say that they got hacked publicly unless it leaks. So if it leaks, if somebody, whistleblower, say we got hacked, or some hacker is bragging about that, and the news journalists pick it up, then they are going to say they were hacked. Okay, so this is the key thing to understand, that we are not aware of how big this problem is. Okay, we think our credit cards are secure with the pin and chip thing, so we think these things are secure. They aren't secure. And if I just turn around in front of cash machine twice and then just make sure that nobody sees my PIN, I'm perfectly secure. No. That's not how it works. That's absolutely not how it works. If I want to steal your credit card details, okay, I just need to take a picture of your credit card. There are lots of websites and the services where I can use that without having a card. So I have the front and back. I don't need to have physical access to it. I don't need a PIN number to make online purchase. Okay? And of course, if I'm a stupid guy and use Thomas's credit card to buy myself a PlayStation and get it delivered to my home address, and PlayStation, you know, Thomas says, who the hell is using my credit card? Reports to the police checks it and finds me. It's not going to work, is it? You know, I'm going to get arrested very quickly. So that's a stupid criminal. But if I'm a smart criminal, okay, I'm going to buy cryptocurrencies and shit like that, you know, so who the hell, you know. One of my credit cards got stolen and they used it in phone booths to make international calls. Because you don't need a PIN number, you just put the credit card in. Talk as much as you want for free with your home country, you know, so I had, you know, and then spend hundreds and hundreds, you know, so what I can do? I steal a credit card, and these credit cards are stolen from the post office. So the people who work in the post office can feel there's a credit card, so they put 20, 40, 50 of those, and then they sell it to their community. So there's like, hey, give me 20 pounds or 20 euros, and you have a credit card, you can talk for hours till somebody cancels it by probably a couple of months. You know, so it's we think these things are secure. We are led to believe they are secure, but they are not. Another problem with credit card is, of course, cloning of the credit card, you know, so it takes 2 seconds to clone it, okay? You think, you know, the tap thing is secure. It's not. Get NFC reader, I can read all the information in 2 minutes what your phone or card is sending to me, and I can emulate that. So I'm giving you some sort of real-world examples that you can relate to easily, but really, when we talk about programming, the same principles apply, okay? When we talk about our servers and how we secure this sort of stuff, same principles apply, okay? It is not secure. And we have to do as much as we can to secure it the best way we can. And we have to think about internal, external, and we have to think about this stupidity of humans as well. Okay, so bear with me. What I'm going to do now is switch my scene, so hopefully that's the scene, yep, okay. And I'm going to show you a little bit of the document that was created. If you remember, we had a guy called Valentin a few months ago telling us about stuff. And this is his document that he created for us in order to understand how to secure a server, okay? Like Ubuntu that we have, okay? So what he is doing, he used some CIS, I don't know what it is, and other internet guides. So he did the studying, and he obviously studied this in a school, his university, to understand what do we need to do, okay? And when I read this document, I don't understand half of the stuff, what it is and what it does, okay? Disable unused file systems. Okay, what? I have files on my server, okay? What are file systems? Well, let's say this is a server which is doing 2 things, for example, okay? Which is most common thing, okay? It's serving, it has a database, it has a front end, so it has a website that it's serving, it has a backend where people log in to manage stuff, and then it has a little mobile application connected to it, okay? So file systems, obviously, when you have Ubuntu, it has many other things which are running, okay? and those things that are running are file systems, okay? So folders where things might be stored, okay? And Ubuntu and Linux and all the other things are storing everything in files, okay? If you imagine how the computer works, it works by storing everything in files. If you're using a database, it doesn't matter MySQL, okay, database, at the end of the day is stored in files. So we have all these tables and stuff like that that we typically see, and it doesn't matter which database you're using, at the end of the day you have some files which are stored on your machine, which is basically your database. So we all did MySQL export import, okay, but let's say my database MySQL is not running at all. I can still transfer the database without exporting MySQL. I can actually transfer the files from one computer to another and then open it on the another computer, okay? And even if you have a password protected thing, well, on other computer I can create new passwords because I'm a sudo user. So, see, if I steal your files, like database files, and you don't know your passwords or anything like that, put it on my computer, boom, easy. Okay? There are, of course, other files that are important, like files that contain our keys to various services. Okay? So let's say Google Maps. That's a paid service, and you have a key to use, okay? So if that file is readable or I can easily access it, you know, then I can use that service using your key, and you get charged, you know, and I use it for free. Of course, there are some files which are completely and utterly not used, okay? So they are listed here, and those files, if they are not used by the system, we can, you know, kind of add them to a list and disable them. Which makes sense, okay? So what I want to do on the server in the terms of files, I have to be very minimalistic, okay? So only the files, I have to understand what files are what and what are they used for, and kill every other file system. Don't write logs where I don't want them to write because those logs might contain sensitive information and so on. Another one which is quite often used is this temp folder. You know that every computer has a temporary folder where everything stores everything, okay? So yeah, it could be cache files from your site, but it could be cache files from your installation, from your MySQL importing, you know. So who knows what the hell is in a temp folder, okay? And this could be a treasure trove for people. Same thing like your bloody recycle bin. You know, you put your .env file with all your passwords in recycle bin and you don't empty it. Well, it's there to be used. You secure where it's really is, but in recycle bin, you didn't think of it. So again, there are different partitions on your hard drive that you need basically to set up the proper read and write permissions, okay? So read and write means that who can read, who can write, all right? And this is sometimes very annoying on these servers because I'm logged in as user, let's say, root, and then root can't access the user Django, or root can't access the folder which is www.data, and I can't check the files and read them because, you know, so I want everything to be run by the same user. But that is...
But you can also change it.
Yeah, you can change it, but, you know, the people are annoyed because if you can change it, then a hacker can change it.
Yeah.
Okay, so having different separate users and these different folders belonging to different processes and users and groups makes it a little bit harder, okay? It's not, we can't do anything about it. So who needs to read the files of, temporary files of MySQL? Well, MySQL. Nobody else needs to read it, ever, okay? So wherever they are stored, MySQL. Who needs to find, you know? So we can do that thing, you know, but it's a long and tedious process, okay? Now there is also a thing that we have a problem with executing stuff. Who can execute stuff? It's not just about reading and writing, because if I can execute commands, then I can change things on other things. So that's another one that I need to make sure that they can't be executed from certain things. The processes that are running. Sometimes it's very hard to understand even what every single file or process or anything like that is for. What do I do with processes? Okay, your system is running Apache, MySQL, and the processes like this. What information do I get? Well, I can get that information from your headers, typically, you know, in a browser anyway, to see what's your Linux version. But if I know what your processes are, then I can apply specific scripts and apply specific vulnerabilities. So if there is a vulnerability in cron job, and you are running cron job, and I can see the cron job, it's like, yeah, great, I can try to hack this one. You know, so information of processes is not, you know, exactly I'm going to do some, you know, but it's part of that stepping stones for me to gain access to your something on your computer and so on. Okay, so bootloader, okay. What's a bootloader? So this is an interesting one, and I will actually digress a little bit from here. All right, so when you turn on your computer, it boots, all right? And your computer boots from your hard drive. But it can also boot from network. It can boot from USB stick, it can boot from CD, okay? So there's a problem with the thing, because if I boot from something else, then I have a full access to that. So typically what we do in a BIOS, we set up a password for the BIOS, okay? And then we set the boot sequence that it just does the hard drive number 1, and that's what I want to boot from. So people need physical access to swap the hard drive. The problem with this is that most people set up their BIOS password and then they forget what they put in. So next time when their Windows crashes and they need to change this boot order, oh, I can't because I locked myself out. I can't stick a USB. And you can also put password, you know, so you remember it next time. But then it's beats the yeah. So it's very, very hard, you know, to understand that this booting of the computer. So if I reboot the computer, it will start things in specific order. And there is a possibility that there is a network boot. Okay, so I can say boot from this instead of that. I can also create a fake drive. Okay, and I can boot from the fake drive. So I don't even have to have physical USB disk. You know that, I don't know if you guys ever installed the image file for Ubuntu, ISO files and so on. You can mount them, okay, and they act like a proper drive, like a CD-ROM or whatever you want, DVD. So, and they can be bootable, and then once I boot in my operating system where I have all the permissions, and then your hard drive is just like drive D on Windows PC, so I can just go and see what's in there, and I access all the files. I am sudo, I can change everything over there. Now the second thing, of course, what I can do is encrypt my hard drive, all right? So if I encrypt my hard drive, this first hard drive can't read what's on the other one, but then the same problem happens. People forget that they encrypted it, or forgot the password, or even worst case, you have some file that decrypts it, which you kind of lost or didn't know that you need to save it somewhere safely, or even worse, you saved it on the hard drive that you encrypted, so then you are, screwed. So bootloader is very important. We want to make sure that it always boots from the partition and from the software that we set up, not anything else. Sudo, okay, you can see what it says here in the document, but then, I always like to add something different. Once people start using Ubuntu and Linux for the first time, and then they discover sudo, they discover, what? If I type a command, it doesn't work. If I type it with sudo in front, magically it works. So what do you start doing? Do sudo for every command. Yeah, exactly. And there is a command sudo-su or something like that, which you don't even have to type it afterwards. It will just do everything in sudo. Don't. Okay.
Sudo-su changes the user.
Well, there is something sudo-s or whatever, doesn't matter. Okay, but better not. Yeah, but as I say, there is a reason why we don't want to run everything with sudo. We can, but there is a reason why we don't want to. Typically, when we run sudo, we are running it as a different user that we are logged in. So my name is Andre, so my user will be Andre, okay? And then Andre has nothing to do with lots of different folders and files and processes. Andre can kill them, run them, open them, start them, stop them, etc., etc. But sudo user, which is typically root user, can, okay? So then I'm running everything as somebody else. But if my hacker or somebody gets access to that root, they have access to everything. So that's why we don't want to make sure that it's happens. So if I'm just sudoing everything just to fix bugs and errors that annoy me, that's a horrible, horrible practice, okay? You can also check the sudo commands, the history. So if you think you're hacked, you can check what is the history of everything that was typed, so you can see what somebody was trying to do. So one of the things that you all probably have in your local development machine is that your MySQL user is root, okay? And that's fine, but that's also quite stupid, because that's the first one that somebody who wants to guess will try to guess, okay? It's root user, and I just need to guess your password. And I will try root, password, and all these lists of typical passwords that people do. And after 10, 20 guesses, I'll probably get it right, okay? Because you are predictable, all right? Passwords like Maastricht 2020 are not secure. If you thought of that, and it's like my big secret is that it's capital M. Okay? It's not secure. Lots of people thought of the same password, okay? Because I need long word and I need numbers, okay? so not very secure. The other users, as you will probably see it later in the document, is that, you know, I need to change the users as such, you know, so if I use MySQL user, same thing, very easy to guess. Another thing is that all these applications use standard ports, so it's a good thing to change the ports, but I'm sure that he will mention it in this document. If he doesn't, then he didn't do a good job. Now, one interesting thing is that there is software that checks file system integrity. So basically, I can have a snapshot kind of by system, and if there is a change, this software will capture it, okay? So, which is quite nice. So if somebody changes some permissions or, you know, that's detected, okay? That's the modification that we didn't expect to see. You know, sometimes you can do it by accident, but then that's fine. And sometimes it can be somebody who is not doing it properly. So this AIDE, AIDE, is one of those applications which can scan your system and so on. But see, let's say this AIDE has a known vulnerability. So if I check the processes and this is running, I was like, yeah, welcome. Okay, so there are lots of things which are happening that we don't even know that they are happening, okay? So what the hell is a core dump? And if you can read this from here, is a dump is the memory of executable program, okay? So sometimes your program crashes, but then it dumps the whole thing into some sort of logs or files, you know, and of course there could be lots of confidential information in that file, so again, you can protect against that. Again, Parmor, another application that can be used for security of these, especially accesses and to the system. Warning banners, message of the day. How the hell can I hack a system through the message of the day? Well, Thomas has asked Valve, they got that. I don't know why, but these, you know, when I log in remotely to the server, then it gives you some sort of message. And some people even have this running joke of some sheep, hello Dolly, Dolly the sheep or something like that. So it was always messaging something like that. And then the people put crazy stuff like, you know, give me a famous quote and crap like that, you know, as a joke. And, you know, these little applications seem quite harmless, all right? But they are not really written to be, you know, run on these servers which have so much traffic and so on securely. That's not their purpose. Their purpose was, you know, joke, fun, whatever. You know, so we don't need them. So any service basically which you don't need, especially these useless ones which, you know, kill, all right? So, special purpose services. NTP, Network Time Protocol. I've seen this sometimes if I don't turn on my Mac for a while, then the date is wrong. It's either a bug on my Mac or something like that. So my date is wrong. And then I try to use Firefox, to access the website, so it doesn't allow me because my time when I'm making a request is not correct. It's like 3 months in the past. So they can't say you can make a request 3 months in the past or 3 months in the future or something like that, okay? So this is why they want to implement the time protocol to synchronize system clocks. So you say, okay, the request has to be made on specific time. Why the hell is that important? Okay? Well, the computers have two problems, okay? And these are legacy problems. There's one problem which was there's no date in most computers before 1970.
Epoch time.
Yeah, epoch time, Unix time. So it starts in the 1st of January 1970, so you can't put a date in 1968. And there was second issue because some Windows systems and so on at the time had this Y2K problem bug, you know, because they were like, my God, the whole world is going to go blank, the electricity and everything else will stop because these systems were not built. They didn't think of the systems to build when the time switches from 1999 to 2000. Okay, because if I'm using systems which just check last 2 digits and I build it in 1960 or 70, so I have lots of time, so every year is +1, +1, +1, and then suddenly it resets to 0, 0. So it means that I'm in the past. So see, this is example what I want to give you, that when we program stuff, we don't think of long term and so on. So we have these borderline behaviors which can cause a crash, okay? So I can cause a crash if I put a borderline behavior, okay? So if the date is wrong, I can crash the system. Some part of the system might not work well if I crash it. And sometimes that's all what they want, you know. If I have a competitors, you know, selling shoes and I'm selling shoes, you know, well, you know, the best thing is to crash their websites every now and then. So I can just like hire somebody just to annoy them. Okay, I can use brute force like DDoS attacks and shit like that, but you know, maybe I can just crash their bloody servers till they figure it out. I sold more shoes because they couldn't. So you see, these exploits, when we think of them, it's not that, you know, MySQL has a wide open gap where you type secret password, which is, I don't know, wildlife, and boom, you have full access. It's not like that. We are trying to, as a hackers, just to crash things, okay, make them work on extremes, and then they fail to process information properly. So this time itself, if it's wrong, it's not going to cause any problems, of course, but if we block this, then we save ourselves and so on. X Windows system, for example, and then these DNS, POP3, Samba, rsync, you see these ones, okay? These are great things, all right? You know, when I install Ubuntu, it asks me 2 questions. Do you want standard installation or custom? Yeah, well, boom, standard, okay? Don't ask me any questions. Boom, I get all the standard applications. So, DHCP, DNS, for example, are 2 services which are only used for domain name servers, DNS domain name server. So if my server is domain name server, so it means that it translates IP addresses into domain names. So if my IP address is 111.111.70.38 and my domain is appsource.org, and DNS will translate that and you be a public server providing that service to whoever is asking for absolutes.org, it will say this is that server. That's DNS. But in the example that I'm saying, a standard website server doesn't need DNS service. DHCP is assigning IP addresses to the network, if I remember it correctly. I don't need it. So uninstall it because it might cause some issues. FTP, okay? This one is really bad. All right, so don't have FTP on your server. And what is FTP? File Transfer Protocol. This allows you to easily connect to your server and upload the files. Okay, so if I want to upload the files to my server, such as my code, for example, I will use FTP. If I want to upload images, I will use FTP. Don't. IMAP POP3, you probably remember what those are. Those are email services. Again, I don't need them because this is not, my example server is not sending and serving as an email service, so I don't need those. Samba, I think this is like FTP kind of networking tool, so if I want to connect my Mac and Windows two machines, they use SMB protocol to transfer files across and so on. I don't need that on server, which is just a website and so on. So all of these systems and many others can be pre-installed on your various Ubuntu and other flavors of Linux installations. They might be there handy, but you don't need them. So kill them. First, your server will be running faster and better. Second thing, less security headaches to, of course, if you have a client for this stuff, you also need to kill those too. Anything so non-essential is removed because that can be some sort of that's a professional word, attack vector, okay? So that's what these scripts are looking for, so check all. Network. IPv6, okay? The problem is that we used IPv4, okay? And this is those IP addresses that we know, which are 3 numbers, 3 numbers, 3 numbers, 3 numbers with dots, but the numbers are between 0 and 255. Okay, so every computer server in the world is addressed by IPv4. And then they figure out, oh my God, we don't have enough of these combinations. Okay, so they needed a new standard called V6, which allows us 30 billion trillion more. So we'll never run out of those IP addresses. But most computers these days don't use IPv4. So why use it if you are not using, if your DNS server is using standard IP address? Disable this one, get rid of it. Okay, so pretty much secure, first of all, is to limit the number of options and make your server as lean as possible, so only the shit that you know what it is for, it's running. And the same thing applies to your personal computers at the end of the day, okay? Only stuff what you know, and phones as well. Okay? Now IP forwarding, packet redirecting, source protections, and all these redirects suspicious packages. Let me tell you one thing, okay? And this is for your personal computer, all right? What is the difference between your personal computer and the server? Okay? Here's the main difference. Your personal computer is connected to the router. Okay, I'll say it again. When you are connected to the network, you are connected to the router. Okay? So, everybody in this office has the same IP address. Okay? We are sharing the same IP address. Fine. What does it mean? What does it mean? If I say log in remotely to the IP address of 1111, for example, am I targeting Thomas's computer or Andre's or whoever, Lana's, doesn't matter, okay? It doesn't work like that. It doesn't work like that because, of course, the router says, well, I don't know who this is for. Okay, so I can't forward this request like SSH to log in remotely or anything like that because I don't know which one of computers on my network are you targeting. So it's going to reject it. So basically a router, if you have a standard settings in a router, is going to reject it. Okay, so basically you can't access your computer remotely ever because you're always connected through a router. Unless you set up your router with DNZ and other stuff, then it can connect directly to your computer. So in theory, I can use my computer as a public server or a public network, but I need to do something on my router in order to send requests to my computer directly. Okay? So if my internal IP address is 192.178.0.0, everybody who is on the same network here in the office can access my computer, okay? But everybody who is outside can't access my computer. So my computer is kind of more protected. Now the servers are not connected on the router as such. They are directly connected to the IP address, so all the requests that come from to IP address are directly processed by the server. Okay? So that is a huge difference, okay, between your computer and the server computer in terms of security. Okay? So you have this thing which protects you, okay, which does act as a firewall, because your web router will say, well, by default, you don't need, your computer doesn't need any accesses on ports 22 and 36 and so on, so I'll just reject all of those. And all of you actually have a firewall installed as part of your Ubuntu, Windows, Mac, and so on, which is a software firewall, which then also blocks those things, even if they pass through. However, on the server, firewall is very important, but also making sure that all these services, redirects, and various sockets do exactly what we want them to do. Okay, so if we don't make sure that's the case, if we leave everything open, they can connect through the those ways, and then so there are many services that are running, like TCP and etc. I'm just not going to go into details of all these because that would be beyond the scope, etc. And of course, the network protocols, what we are talking about right now, basically, every network protocol that you are not using, well, disable it. Okay, what is a network protocol? What network protocols do we know? So what is RDS? Well, RDS, as far as I remember, is for streaming voice and something like that, okay, or video, okay. Let me check, do I remember? Relate to datagram, so okay, connect, blah blah blah. Oracle connected it. It was included in Linux kernel. Okay, so great. Still don't know what it is. Datagrams. What are datagrams? Packet switch network, header, payload sections, okay? So as you can see, this is part of your computer which you never heard of. See, it was invented in bloody 1962, 67, you know, so you have all this stuff which is there, And unfortunately, we don't know what it is, so we need documents like this, checklist, which will say, hey, if you are not using, if you don't know what it is, if you don't need it, kill it, okay? Firewall, again, as I said, typically you have firewall pre-configured with your Windows, and then you have your router acting as a firewall, which is great. On servers you don't, so you have to connect, configure and make sure the firewall is working. And if I have a website, I only want port 443. I don't even want port 80. Okay? Because port 80 is HTTP, so it's not encrypted. So I want all my customers to access my servers with HTTPS on port 443. That's the one that I need up and running. No, I don't know. Network transfer protocol, whatever it is. What are the needed ports if it's a web server? Port 443. That's it. However, when you configure Apache or Nginx, you say which protocol you want to use. So this is my choice. So I can make this protocol 779 if I want to. Okay? I don't even have to use the same numbers. So let's say you need SSH. I need remote login to my server to access the terminal. But at least change the bloody port, so it's not on 22, because most servers don't change the port 22, okay, and then allow connections to that port. Yeah, so at least you say, okay, connect to my server, but use port 7958.
Does it really matter now? Because like anyone can set which ports are open anyway.
Yeah, but we are making it harder. It's impossible to do it properly, because if I know SSH is 22, so let me write a script. Go from 0000 IP to 255.255.255.255. Okay, and connect to port 22 and use password, user root, password root. Do you think that I will not hit 50, 100, 10,000 servers which have that open on default port? So when they say 12-year-old kid hacked some bloody, pensioners database for, yeah, of course it did. Because it's not that this kid is like some ridiculous wizard. Sometimes they are, but they use basic. Yeah. And then he wrote, well, if root doesn't work, use root password, and if root password, yeah. Yeah, but I have time, okay? So because this is not a ridiculous number of things, and then I can launch multiple processes at the same time. I don't have to do it one by one. I can have 50 simultaneous processes doing this. So you do 1 to 255, you do the next set, and so on. So yeah, I can make it very, very close. So FTP, as I say, is one of those horrible ones which typically appear here for no reason. And others, 3306, which is MySQL. Everybody knows that, so A, change the port number, but B, there's absolutely no reason in the world why your database needs to be accessed externally. The only thing that on this type of configuration that I just described, that needs internal access to your database, is the internal systems. So is it your Django, is it your PHP, it doesn't matter, it asks the database, give me the data, and then I will create a view for the user to see it, and that's it. Okay? There are tables which can detect these possible intrusions, so if you want to monitor those, that's very good. But very good tool is fail to ban, which detects these types of repeated requests which fail. Okay, so if I try to SSH to your computer with root, and then root password, and root Donald Trump, and I fail 3 times, fail to ban will say, your IP, you can't make any more requests. So it stops it from from guessing, because your next one was bloody Elon Musk, and that was, it's not existed, so it kind of prevents it from happening. However,
It only happens if it's 3 times in a row. So you just stop this.
or you can configure it to be 2 times in a row. The problem is that you, as a programmer, will lock yourself out using this. Because you will type your SSH password 3 times incorrectly because you idiot, because your caps lock was on and you didn't say it, so you 3 times typed the same correct password and it got rejected. And then boom, oh, sorry, you can't access the server anymore. It happens to all of us, I think, and if it didn't, it will. The typical, very easy solution, don't panic, use your phone, go turn off your Wi-Fi, use your mobile data, because then you will get a different IP address, and you can log in and then go to fail to ban and whitelist this address. So if you don't have to call somebody else to do it for you. You have your phone. If it's on the same Wi-Fi, it will be banned. But if you just turn on 4G instead of Wi-Fi, gets different IP address. So it's a very good way to check, have you been banned from a service anyway? Just use your phone, access that service. If it still doesn't work, then it's something more serious than being banned. Okay, you can also configure email addresses to see who are the people and see what I said, you can configure stuff like how many tries you allow them to have, etc. So for SSH, that's the configuration that you can put. Okay, rootkit detection. So this is a good tip. There is a software, RK Hunter, which obviously can detect has something been modified, checked, and so on. There are many of these softwares, but the problem is you don't know which one is safe or which one is causing more errors if you install additional services, so it's always tough. Logging and auditing. We talked about logging quite a lot, okay? So logging, if you log stuff well, you can understand what is going on in your server. I'm not going to go into that again. And auditing stuff with certain applications like App Armor and so on, you can perform audits every 3 months, 6 months, and so on. So when we provide our customer with maintenance contracts, we include stuff like audit. So we have once every 3 months to do the whole audit of the system, check is everything working fine, check the logs, check this, check that, and determine what are the activities that we need to do in order to improve stuff, okay? Sometimes it's nothing, sometimes just do some updates, okay? And boom, we are done. And then they say, why are we paying you 600 euros per month for maintenance? Nothing happened on my server. Exactly. That's what you want, for nothing to happen. You can configure these applications like Journal and so on to do things properly, and you can configure the logs sometimes you have these big logs, but you can do log rotate, so it has like a log file for every day, so you can configure it how you want it, okay? Configure cron. This is how you should configure cron. Cron works for authorized user. Configure SSH. So typically we do have SSH and cron running on our machines. And some other configurations. I'm not going to go into these details at all. Allow users, deny users, lots of little configurations that you can do. failed attempts, limit passwords, reuse. So now we are talking about user accounts and environment. Okay, so one thing that people force is that users have to change a password every 2 months, every 3 months. And the password cannot be the one that you used before. Okay, so this is so annoying for me as a developer. You know, I come to the client's machine and then boom, the password doesn't work anymore because they have this password rotation system. And then you say, okay, type the password. Oh, you used this password before. How do I know which passwords I used before? But this is actually quite smart because what people do, and if I go to this my documentation, some other pages on this thing, you will see all the passwords, for example, that we are using for various customer systems. That's a not very good place to put the passwords, and those passwords hadn't been changed in a bloody year, so you know, the longer that they stay the same, then the longer, the easier for them is to leak somehow. You know, I'm streaming YouTube and then you saw my passwords and API keys and so on. So sometimes they might leak through that, you know. Nobody's watching all the YouTube videos to check the passwords, luckily. However, you know, as I say, good thing is to make sure that users that we have to change the password, restricts to SU, what I mentioned before. Accounting, don't know what accounting does. And there is some battle tested security tool. Oh my God, battle tested security tool that you can install, and that security tool will obviously help. So let's call that first section. So as I said, this is compressed list that Valentin put together about various things that you can do. This is not exclusive list. I didn't even talk about mobile applications here and so on. So hopefully in the second part of the session, after a little break, I will start by answering your questions that I have a list of here somewhere. And then I will maybe just cover a few more things which we didn't talk. But please do send questions about in the chat, so I will also check the chat. So right now, 5-minute break or 4, and then we'll go back and go into your questions and a few last things. So should take full hour. See you in 5.
Bro,
What's happening?
work. Just implementing a shop anonymous.
What do you mean? What are you trying to do?
I'm not trying, I'm just doing it. It takes work.
I'm doing it, not trying. So you want to like sell stuff to
Sensors from anonymous that the farmers can use in their fields. So we're gonna sell these. You can add them to the cart, blah blah blah, cart, whatever the fuck. And you can change this shit. I'm gonna fix some shit here still, but and then here in checkout,
No.
you'll have your cart with all your items, your app source email address if it has it. Not everything is filled in my app source profile, so it's not filled in. And then also, I just added that it has addresses saved as well. If you, let's say, a farmer has multiple fields with buildings near it, that you be like, okay, deliver that in that farm, that address. So it's like a extra step. Oh, that's nice. Just working on that. Cool.
I've been working in Node modules.
Huh?
I've been working in Node modules.
Nice. Wait, working in them?
On
What do you mean on them?
So basically, I am checking every Node module we have, checking all the versions and what is the latest for everything, and then what we are actually using with pages. So
And why?
because Apple deprecated one of the fucking APIs, and now we cannot really build for Apple. We cannot populate for Apple. So we need to update it.
Fancy.
And when I try to update it, there's like a million things that we're using. Stuff like that.
Fun.
Anything interesting? Good? Not good? Too many details?
No, it's not.
My head hurts.
Hmm?
Head hurts.
Head hurts. Okay, guys, let's move on. It was 3-minute break, not 5. Horrible, horrible. So hopefully you will rush from your toilet breaks and stuff like that.
Take a bit extra.
Yeah. So yes, please, still waiting for questions on the thing. Thomas said his head hurts from all this information. So yeah. So what are we going to do? Okay, let's go through the questions. Okay, so let me share the screen and let me view, zoom in, zoom in, zoom in. Enter full screen, ruler, spell check, layout, groups. What the hell? Don't know how to zoom in. Anyway, so first question was about VPN. So what the hell is VPN?
Virtual private network.
Virtual private network, yes. Thomas May, how do you physically secure our location? Bouncer Andre. I can tell you fun stories about that later. Because I was so told they often mistake me as a bouncer, you know, so I have interesting experiences in cafes and so on.
The proportions are wrong though. Instead of wide at the shoulders, it's wide.
Yeah, but I used to be other way around. You know, now it's going down the hill. So yeah. So what are we doing here? Okay, what's VPN, virtual private network? You know, what the hell does this do?
It changes your IP address so that when you access other pages, it looks like you're accessing from another location.
It doesn't change.
So it changes your IP address to look like you are from somewhere else.
No.
And Thomas says no. So what do you think Thomas VPN does?
VPN is basically a tunnel to another location where you're like every request you do gets sent to the server, and then that server will forward it and then send the response back to you. So basically, it's just a tunnel.
Exactly. So what VPN does when you install VPN client, I think I have one on this computer, VPN Proton, yeah. So it's been a while. Oh my God, remind me later, login. Well, I can't even log in. Okay, so basically what it does, it's every time when you make a request to, let's say, appsource.org, okay? So typically what it does, as I said, you have a router, and your request goes to your router, then it connects to your network provider. In our case, it's typically Vodafone or whoever it is, I don't care, okay? And then it goes to the DNS server, and then DNS server figures out where is upsource.com or .org, that server, and goes there directly, okay? So your request is routed a couple of times, and it's fun if you use, if on Windows you use trace-RT, okay? You will see that routing. On Mac is something different, okay? Trace for Mac. See, I turn on Outlook. How to trace route on Mac. Okay, let's see. It's an interesting thing, okay? Trace route, open application, utilities, terminal, oh my God. Trace route, okay. No, it's on PCs trace RT or something like that. So, trace route appsforce.org. Okay? So this is view, can I zoom bigger? Oh my God.
Bigger.
Plus, which one was it? Bigger, this stupid thing plus, but then I have also shift. So see, when I go here, it,
I can hack you now.
now you can happy, yeah, exactly. So it goes through these little servers. Funny, it went to London.
No, it's not everything is a server.
Yeah. So, and it ends up in appsource.com. This is our.
It's also noted that it's not a server.
Okay, so if I press Command C and say ping appsforce.org, Command C, okay? So this is the IP address of the server. Well, it even, yeah, so that is, yeah, that's there. Okay, fine. So I had some server NL, okay, and I have some London, and I can check each one of these, what the hell they are. All right, so, but it kind of goes almost directly. And VPN doesn't do that, okay? So it transfers all these to a secret, or not so secret, other server, and then, as Thomas explained, that server makes a request for you, okay? So this thing happens, but instead of going to appsource.org, it ends up at VPN server. Now the VPN server does request to appsource.org, so they get that, they get response from appsource.org, and then they send it back to you. Okay? So that's what it does. What the hell is that for? Well, the good news, typically what people use it for is if you access Netflix, and Netflix USA is different than Netflix NL, and you have a show over there that you would like to watch and you can't because you are not in that country, I can pretend I'm in US by using this. All right? Now, HTTPS is supposed to provide end-to-end encryption, so I make an encrypted request on my end, and then it sends everything to the server, which decrypts it, understands what I asked for, and then encrypts the data, sends the data to me, and then it gets decrypted. So every server in this list shouldn't know what I'm asking for, but that's not exactly the case, because with this request all this data is transferred with and so on, so they got pretty much good idea of where I'm going to. Okay, so if I go to Pornhub, just like I did to appsource.org, all these people know that I went to Pornhub. Okay? And if I add VPN, then there is an additional person who knows that I went to Pornhub. All right? Now, one thing is that I try to protect my privacy. I don't want people to know that I'm going on Pornhub. Okay? So, here's the thing, okay? Because if I talk to VPN, I don't have to make all these requests. I can make a socket, direct computer to connect thing, and then through that socket I can put these requests. So in that case, none of these people know I went to Pornhub. Only my VPN provider knows I went to Pornhub. Okay? So if I have a socket, basically streaming the data, so I have direct connection between the two computers, so I can say here, kind of whisper, okay, fine. But then, the whole idea of Google and the likes of that providing VPN systems beats the purpose of VPN. And then you have all these unknown bloody companies giving you various VPNs and advertising, giving you 3 months free, and you can use it, and you are just sign up with everyone. But you don't know who the hell these people are. Are they Chinese mafia, Spanish mafia, Russian mafia, and Spanish Inquisition? I don't know. Or governments, or CIAs, or what? Or just bloody hackers. I don't know. So, as you saw briefly, I'm using this Proton VPN, because Proton VPN, at least on paper, they are saying they are extremely careful about privacy, and they have very strict protocols because they are Swiss companies, so they are implementing those Swiss standards of protecting your privacy and so on. So they have quite high, I think highest probably in the world standards and rules and regulations. So they're not cheap, okay? But if I want to protect my privacy through VPN, and of course, if I want to fool likes of BBC, which can't broadcast its content outside of UK because TVs have licenses to broadcast only in the country of origin, I can fool them with Proton. So most of others didn't work very well for me. So there you go. Not very useful, not very secure. You don't need it as a developer to develop anything, and it can be detected that you are using VPN, so it can be blocked. Spanish mafia and the government, yeah. Okay. We didn't talk much about our users, people internal security. And this first question is it sufficient to protect the data on your web app by using admin accounts with hashed passwords? Well, what do you think, guys? Is it enough?
No.
No? Thomas says no. What do you think?
I don't understand how.
Well, you have a web app like, Alpha Apps Wars, okay, and if I log out, I'm admin, as you can see, administrator. I have my admin password and username there, okay?
But it's
So is that safe enough?
no.
Okay, why not?
It would be easier to get that password than if it's not.
Well, it's easy to get that password, okay?
Well, there's multiple additional questions. First of all, is it HTTPS, HTTP, SSL certificate? Is there encryption between when it's being sent and not? Because the moment you submit, it's still plain text.
But then if you get the key, can't you get all the hash passwords? So like it would be easier to get all the passwords if you just learn the key to unhash them.
Well, the thing is that, you know, my computer is over there, I'm in a meeting room, every bloody idiot can go to my computer, check all my saved passwords, and access this and delete stuff, you know, if they are angry at me. So if I piss off DJ, for example, and, you know, he's like, oh, he's in the toilet, I'll just go there and do something dodgy, okay, because he wants to fire me, you know, because I can delete some information or check how much money is there on bank account, you know, so I can log in very quickly, okay. So is it sufficient? Absolutely not. You know, lots of people write passwords in some bloody notebooks which are next to their desks. You know, I have my father who has a printout of his passwords next to his computer, you know, so, you know, it's just inviting to get. So obviously password protection, even if they are hashed in the database and stored securely, is not enough from internal points of view. We just said 10 reasons how you can easily, you know. So this is why they have two-step verification, okay? So if I really want to protect, I need two-step verification. So if I want to log into DigitalOcean and many other systems, I have to implement my user and password, and then it's like, yeah, brilliant, thank you very much. Now enter 6-digit PIN code that we send to your authenticator app. You can have various authenticator apps, you know, like Google has one and I'm using one from Google. Doesn't matter because they just send me 6-digit codes which expire every 30 seconds. So I have to type it within 30 seconds. So it's more annoying for the users, but it's more secure. I can also send a text message to your phone with that thing. You know, is that secure? Well,
It's more secure.
it's more secure. It's still not secure enough. So it's not secure, but then, you know, this is why we have roles. And roles are very important in a system to set up the roles of the users, okay? So if I guess Thomas's password, you know, I don't have access to the database and or here and all the other features. He can't access those as that user. So even if I guess his password, I can only see part of it, okay? Yeah, I know, I gave you access to, you know, but then there is a second problem, okay? And this is what happens. And this is what happens much more than usual, especially if you are using software which is not open source, okay? So if you're a small business, you typically add people to 20, 30 different services, okay? You add them to your DNS provider, to your email provider, to your GitHub account, to Google account, the shared calendar, you know, Trello, you add them to all these little services, and then that person leaves the company. Do you have time to remember every single time in the past 3 years you granted to this guy? You know, of course, on AppSource I say disable this user, you can't access any of the internal services. You know, for example, our Git thing, is another thing which I don't want to use. I can use privacy, various Git systems which are available, you know, to manage the code. But there are privacy issues because obviously GitHub, as you know, is owned by Microsoft. So what did they do? They made this AI which is supposed to suggest the code as you type it, so it gives you like solution to your problem, so it's great. But how did they train that AI? Well, they train it by using everybody's repository. So if my repository is there, even if it's private, this is the scandal, they use those private to train. So basically, if I have some great ideas and implications and solutions to the problem and I put them on my private repository, now those things are suggested as solution to other developers. You know, I can charge those people consultancy fees, but now I can't because Microsoft just took that for free. And I'm paying them for the private bloody repository. So, yeah, not a very good thing. Okay? What are the dangers if you run the app on your own server and not through the system like DigitalOcean? Okay. Now, first of all, DigitalOcean provides you servers. So you can create a server, buy a server, rent a server, and you can also create a virtual server, okay? And virtual server and real server, there's no difference in how they kind of operate. And if you build your own server in your garage and connect it to your router and make sure that this port forwarding is connected so it can be accessed, it works exactly the same. Okay, you still need to configure the server. It doesn't matter is it your server in the garage, server that you rented from DigitalOcean and similar providers, or virtual machine. It doesn't matter. You still have to do everything that we put in the first section in order to make sure it's secure. DigitalOcean doesn't provide, or any other Linode or AWS doesn't provide you with any of those services out of the box. When you make a server, it's unprotected, you have to protect it yourself. What can go wrong if I click on spam link? Wow. I think this is a brilliant question.
What can go wrong? Everything.
Well, I like the spam links that I'm receiving because these people are constantly, this is called phishing, but it says spelled differently. It's not F-I, it's P-H something, I don't know. So last week I started getting emails which was saying that my support ticket has been updated or resolved. Okay, so great. The problem is I never asked those people. I don't remember asking and waiting for the support ticket. Okay, so I didn't contact the website that in question. So I think it's just a brilliant thing because he was like, my ticket, I was waiting for something, I'll just click on it, all right? So let's say I send you the email saying, hey, your Microsoft support thing has been resolved, or what bloody Barclays Bank, the biggest bank in UK, one of the biggest ones, likes to send me an email saying, hey, you have a new important document in your application. Click here. So they are very smart, formulated as such. Okay. Now this email from Barclays is real, but it's so stupid because I can clone that email and send it to all the UK users, and probably 30% of them have Barclays account, and they will, oh, this is something, I have some important information from my bank, they click on it. Okay? Now, of course, that link that they click on it, it doesn't take them to the real Barclays Bank website. Where does it take them? Okay? Well, it can take them to the site which looks exactly like Barclays Bank. They say, well, now you need to log in. Okay, what are you going to do? Well, you are not going to read the URL which says fakebarclays.com or something like that. You are going to enter your username and password, and then it will tell you, sorry, our service is down at the moment, please come back later. But you just enter your username and password. So I can very easily get your username and password for your Barclays. Of course, Barclays, that's why they implement this two-step verification, so it's not as easy, So one thing what I can do is obviously take very quickly some information from you. The other thing that obviously what you can do is download dodgy software. All right, so you can download a virus which can do whatever it wants to do. Okay. Typically, those viruses, I like the ones these days which encrypt all your pictures and then demand that you pay them a ransomware in bitcoins, and they will send you decrypt code. And if you don't, then they will be deleted in a week or something like that. So time is ticking, all right? And I've seen this actually, a colleague of mine which worked in Code 10, my previous company, she got that, so it was lovely, and you can't do anything. It just went and encrypted all her pictures. The problem is even worse because she was smart enough to link those pictures to her backup, okay, but because the files were changed, then a bloody backup OneDrive, whatever she was using, uploaded those and erased them on the cloud. And so even her backup was infected, and she was like, "These are all my pictures from my brother's wedding," and yeah, they are. So what can go wrong is a lot of things. Okay. Do not click on anything. Okay? I like my ex-wife, which I use example of a person who just clicks on anything which comes in front of her. It doesn't matter. She doesn't read. And I tested this like multiple times. I was like, "What did you click on?" It was like, "Button." I was like, "What was that button doing? What is I don't know. It was just in front, so I clicked on it. To move on, so that button is blocking me from whatever I was doing, so whatever it says, I just click to make it go away, yeah. How can app stores like Android and Apple assure that apps they provide don't have viruses? They can't and they don't care, almost.
I mean, don't they run checks before you build?
Well, what checks would you run?
To check for malware, maybe? I don't know, like a quick scan or something.
Yeah, but if my application sends your user information to appsource.org and Thomas's malware application sends it to thomas.org, how the hell they are going to see which one is real, which one is malware?
I don't know.
Yeah,
I thought
well.
they can run a quick scan or something.
Well, they can run a quick scan for the known things, okay? But the thing is that, okay, so let me build a brilliant application which everybody will download, okay? And let's call it a game, word game, everybody plays those bloody word games and shit like that, that's brilliant. Okay, so I download the word game. Now, the thing what Android and Apple do is they ask permissions. So you have to ask permissions. So if you want to access somebody's file system, contacts, all the other stuff on the phone, as an app, you have to ask for permissions. But then my ex-wife comes in and, I was like, I'll just click on all permissions and give it all the permissions, whatever it asks me, doesn't even think, And there are so many times, I download the game, it's like, yeah, we want access to your contacts. It's like, why the hell does game need access to my contacts? It doesn't, Screw you, I'm not giving you that access. So access control on the devices is pretty good, but the problem is that it doesn't work really well.
There's very many more things. Let's say there's a reason why in Apple and Google you can only use in-app purchases through Apple and Google stuff, because otherwise if you ask credit card and CCV, you post it to a server, you can do whatever with that information. Right?
Well, yes, the credit card information, but there is also another reason, because they take 30% of every transaction, so they don't want you to use any others. They are not protecting you, they are just putting money in their pockets.
Yeah, but it could be
Yeah. So, but the thing is that this is what happens. Okay, this is what happens all the time. If you go to any GitHub repository of any Node.js plugin that you are using, any, okay, you personally can make pull request. Okay, and do that. Okay, and basically what you can do is fix somebody's code, because every of these, one of these, especially open source, because we all use open source and most of them are open source, they depend on people like you and me to do a pull request. Okay, that pull request means that at some point in time I fix some bug or add a feature or so on. Okay, I did a few. Never heard of people, they don't know who I am, you know, I don't have a big rating on these things, you know, I'm not active in this community, you know, they just got it approved. Okay, so everybody then who gets the new version has a little bit of my code in it. All right, so the problem is that these libraries that, you know, I can relatively easily attach some sort of vicious code. Okay, and then of course when you attach that, what does it do? Well, it depends on the app. So let's say app has no permissions, but it does ask you for to log in and register and so on, and you, when you log in and register, you're using your standard accounts. So I can extract quite a lot of people's information from the apps that I never built myself. Okay, without these Apple and Android permissions, etc. Why is Ubuntu and Mac better than Windows in malware protection, and do you need firewall on Ubuntu systems?
Attack surface.
Hmm?
There's too many Windows computers, so most people focus on hacking Windows.
Yeah, well, true. So first of all, there are too many Windows computers. So if you want to hack people, that Windows is bigger market, you know, than Ubuntu users, very small. Second thing is kernel. Okay, so Ubuntu's and stuff like that, Linuxes are built with security in mind. So all these root, boot sequences and stuff like that were made to make sure that it's not user friendly. Okay, you don't have sudo on Windows. You do, but you don't. Because Microsoft is trying to catch up with adding these things, but with every single thing that you add like that, it gets more complicated with users. So you have to always balance. Do I make it easy for the users? Because what is safer than two-step verification? Well, 3 or 16-step verification. You know, that will be very secure. Send me your pictures, tell me what you're doing, tell me what's your favorite animal. I can ask all these questions, you know. It will take you fucking 2 months to log in, but once you log in, it's bloody secure. Okay? So of course I can just say, hey, enter just your name and I'll log you in. That's very easy for people to log in. They will love that site, but then everybody can type your name and log in. So Windows is quite open, but then Windows is also huge. It has so many libraries and so many exploits that it's impossible for Microsoft with all their workforce to look into it. And then they have those many versions, you know, because they are not kind of, they are backwards compatible, but they are not as well. Because this Mac, they are on version 10. But they are still on version 10. And this version 10 was launched, I have no idea when, but it's been like 10, 15 years ago. You know, they didn't go to version. Yeah, they have an update, but these are most cosmetical updates, and most of the updates they provide is like, oh, we change your Photos app. And of course, they are based on Unix kind of systems in a nutshell. So one thing what Apple doesn't allow you is to run application which is not digitally signed. And now in these new versions they even make it even more horrible, so you just can't run applications that are not digitally signed for the app stores. Okay, so it's very hard to sideload applications. So on your iPhone, if you're using iPhone, they are kind of adding same sort of security to the laptops, that the application has to come from the app stores. Of course, they make more money that way, but the second thing is that you can't sideload junk unless it's signed by verified Apple developers with the keys that are from Apple developer. Windows, you can run anything. Okay, and that is a problem, because once of those run anything, I can just find exe file, click on it, and it's a virus or it's a thing. So Windows is not trying, or at least is pretending to trying to do this, but they are way behind, and they have much bigger problem. They will have much bigger user base, and they have Windows 10, and now there's a Windows 11, but only 20% people switch to Windows 11. You know, for one of the reasons security, you don't have that TCM or something, that chip which kind of adds additional layer of security on your older laptops, desktops, so you can't even install Windows 11 on them. So yeah. But malware, spyware, and viruses, they are different things, okay? So malware wants to harm you, spyware wants to extract your data, virus, you know, let's say destroy the data. All of them have a firewall, but the firewall is a piece of software, and piece of software as such can be disabled. So if you have a hardware firewall, which is piece of hardware, then it's harder to disable it. Of course, the hardware firewall, which is your router or something like that, or dedicated firewall, is running firmware, but it's much harder to access to that firmware and disable it than a piece of process that I can just kill, and then there's no firewall. Do I run any Windows antivirus software? I don't. Okay. So many of your applications, Windows, come from different manufacturers, and they give you McAfee and MacMyArcify and all that shit. Uninstall immediately, remove, kill. Okay? There are more spyware and malware than helpware. Okay?
I mean, it's the same for Android, right? So like, they say that it's easier to hack an Android phone than an iPhone.
Well, it's easier to hack. What does it mean it's easier to hack? I can sideload any application on Android. Now they made it a little bit, you have to enable the developer mode and so on. So what? I can do that. But what am I hacking?
I don't know, like accessing my phone.
Yeah, but the thing is, as I say, nobody wants to hack DJ's Android deliberately and specifically, okay? That's the misconception that we think, okay, somebody is sitting there hacking my phone. No, they are not. But we are writing scripts which go to huge amount of people, okay, and they can extract some information, typically exploiting vulnerabilities. That's the thing, okay. And then whatever I extract, I might find use at some point, somehow, somewhere.
How do you make a malware?
That's our next lesson. Make a malware 101. So, so one of the lessons that I plan is have like a hackathon. So I'll have a group of tools. So we can try to affect each other's phone and devices and delete files and so on. You know, so the winner is who deletes more. No, I'm not going to do that hackathon, but there is an idea to do that. There is an old stupid joke like Bosnian virus. You know, you get an email that you received the Bosnian virus, and because we Bosnia are very technologically backward. We can't, you don't have technology to actually write a malware and so on. So the email says, "This is a Bosnian virus. We are not capable of actually doing this. Really, so can you please forward this email to all your friends, and after that just delete all your files." Yeah, so that's it. So as I said, security is impossible task. Okay? Let's say I secure everything, okay? You can't download things, you can't take screenshots, you know. But if I have a, you know, my data, customer data here on this thing when I log in, you know, I can take a bloody camera and take picture of this, and I extracted some data. You know, I need to turn off the monitor as well in order to, you know, but then I'm killing user experience. Okay? So,
How do you get like the passwords of social media, for example? Like the most common is someone hacked my Instagram or my Facebook.
yeah, well, that's the most common question. Okay, so most common question is like jealous boyfriend wants to hack girlfriend's phone and stuff like that, and see who is she texting or other way around. You know, or what she posting on Instagram, or he is doing on WhatsApp. You know, that's you know, that's so many memes and other stuff online is like, hey, can you hack this for me? You can't. It's not that easy to hack specific person's password and so on. But people are so stupid, they leave their phones open, they go to toilet, you know, ta-da. You know, I can install a tracking application and then track where you are going if I suspect you are cheating on me, DJ, you know, because you leave phones open, you know, all the time. So we have to assume it's not secure, and if we don't want people to find out what we are doing, then don't do it. Or if you want to do it, if you want to be ultra safe, okay, what's it called? Tail OS. I think it was Tail OS. Tails. Yeah. Okay, so what you can do, guys, is get a USB stick and download Tails and install it on your USB stick. Okay? So what the Tails does is a really brilliant thing, because you go to Internet Cafe, you stick the USB stick in the computer, restart, and hopefully it will boot from the USB, and it will give you the operating system which doesn't record anything, okay? So of course it's encrypted, so if I lose the USB stick, there's nothing on it. So it uses stuff like Onion and Tor browser. Okay, so if you don't have Tor browser, get it. Okay, for example, because it's built on Firefox, so it's using Firefox instead, but you have clients for everything. But it's using dark web and all that sort of stuff on your URLs. So it gives you quite a lot of security in terms of tracking and other stuff, you know. So those are a few things. So if you want to do something dodgy, explore dodgy stuff, get yourself Tails and Tor, and much better than VPN and all that crap. Any other questions? No, drop. I'm not going to find it. Secure drop, okay? So this is another very interesting one, because Guardian and the Deutsche Zeitung, I think, and a few other still respected journalist media companies are trying to use, trying to get real stories and present the real data to the people, okay? So the Panama Papers, Snowden and all that crap got leaked to the media, okay? So they say, okay, if you want to leak this shit, but to leak it extremely securely and send us some documents that you want to check, okay? We provide this service, Guardian Secure Drop, okay? Funny enough, Tor network, okay? So basically they are telling you, you know, if you don't want people to know what you are doing and so on, if you really want to be secured and so on, then don't use standard things, because those standard things, don't just send us email from your phone, because, yeah, you will never leave your country safely. Any questions on the chat? Spanish Mafia, maybe most phishing comes from clicking. Yeah, well. Okay, I think Nigerian Prince. Yeah, those are funny stories, though, Nigerian princes and so on. It's so funny, because I got the email like, hey, I saw you, I accessed your web camera while you were on this porn site, and I recorded everything that you do, so I'm going to send it to all your friends and shit like that, unless you pay me crap, you know. Now the idiot who sent it to me, actually using this Trace RT internet, you know, and other stuff. Actually, I got his address from Japan. And I was like, you know what, I'll just go to that dude's home. And like, why the hell are you sending me, you know? So, because, yeah, it's not always easy to cover your tracks. And if I, who is not a hacker, can track this dude who sent me the bloody email, yeah, I just did it for Yaks, I was bored. So I was like, you know, it's you are emulating somebody else's email address, so you know, you can do that, and then you are covering, you know, but it has to come from somewhere, you know, and then boom, 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 half an hour. The Google Maps, you know, Japanese are very precise where the IPs are coming from, so like, okay. Anyway, if there are no more questions, then I will call it a day. I think we had 2 hours of security. I guess the bottom line that you have to take away from this is that we have to take security serious, and it is a continuous effort. Okay, you can never be secure enough. It's not like I wasn't hacked in the past 3 months. That means I'm safe. No. Yeah. So you have keep the, keeping common sense as well. So yeah.
I think iPhone has a thing now, like I got a message, I think last week, that one of my passwords is in the password database that they have. and I have
Oh,
to
yeah.
change it.
Firefox has that. Firefox. Many of these things have that passwords leak. Firefox password. Firefox monitor. Okay. How do I get to it? No, it does pop up sometimes and tells me that the website that I am on has been hacked, and then some of the data that gives me those warnings. But then, first, as I said before, that has to be public knowledge. Most of the times, it's not public knowledge. And the second thing is, like, why the hell is Firefox and Mozilla know all the websites that I have, as
Mm.
And what if they get hacked?
Yeah.
So it's never a good thing. But anyway, guys, I think we can talk about this forever. You got to get kind of a feeling of that security. It's not, it's constant fight. So I hope I busted some myths and gave you some useful tips how to live more securely, and so on. Anyway, thank you for your attention. Have a nice day. Bye bye.